Welcome, 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 welcome. I am so excited about this particular one because I have a wonderfully huge announcement that I have not, I have kind of announced in the past, but today's title is called From Part-Time Hustle to Full-Time. That means I am a full-time entrepreneur. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But let me introduce myself. For this is your first time listening to this, I am on YouTube, which hopefully you subscribed. I have my own podcast, which is separate from YouTube. I know YouTube. Prior to I started doing YouTube videos before podcasts. They had a little podcast app, so I had my own separate podcast. Um, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, you claim it, I am there. Okay, but if it's your first time, who am I? My name is Dr. Samaria M. Colbert. I am a licensed therapist and I have over 16 years worth of experience in the field. Um, I just love what I do. I have my own private practice, which is what you see in the background. And it's called Cleaning Creative Counseling. Other things I've done, I've written over 63 books. I just released. I lost count. I gotta go back and actually count. You read so many books, you can lose count. I always say over 60 or over 63 or something like that. I think I'm at book number 64. But I just released my latest one called Esther's Grace. Love that book. I just completed the workbook. I'm just waiting for my cover designer to approve me. I think she actually has. I've approved her. I gotta approve her anyway. Y'all, you get what I'm saying, so that I can finish and upload that. But I do have a lot of knowledge and training courses and t-shirts and a lot of knowledge about what I know. So I say all this to say this: I don't think you can teach people where you have never been. And I think that we live in a world that's very presumptuous. And I'm coming to my point. And there comes a place where you just have to stand on the fact that you know what you know, and you pay the cost to be the boss, honey. Can we just be honest about that? And you can tell someone not from a place of presumptuous, which means to give advice beyond what you can. And to just give people it real in your testimony. And so I say all that to say, not to brag, but this is my testimony. And the purpose of it is not to brag. It's not to tell you how much money I make. It is not to woo you in. It is not even to get new clients. There are other people who are like me, who have seen what's going on in our world. And you had this dream, and maybe you have always felt delayed, or you felt like, God, when? And that's been me. And it's difficult. It's not difficult, but it can be scary in this day and time because of all the things that we've experienced to even dream or think I can have my own entrepreneur business. But you can. And so I want to give you my testimony of how I am able to live, be sustained, have a growing practice, never taking any pay cuts, working solely for myself. And that was not always the case. Okay. But it's not meant to brag. I know some people are going to be like, anything time you do something, someone's going to perceive your motives to be some kind of way, but it's meant to really just encourage you. And of course, I do have a shameless plug because I have multiple things going on. I'm going to post a link to my training course, and it's called From Practitioner to business owner. And that is specifically for people in the healthcare field, specifically therapists. But if you're in the healthcare field in general, you get some real good information from that. And it'll tell you the step-by-step process to start your own private practice, okay? But it's not meant to brag. So let me tell you a little bit about how I started my private practice. I'm going to tell you overall a little bit, and then I'll tell you 10 things that I learned and what I need you to take away from it. Now, I know I'm rambling, but go with me here. I see a lot of the business gurus and saying 6 figure, 7 figure, and how you did it. Because I am in the healthcare field, and technically what I am known for, even though I do all the things that the other ones do, like I have courses, I have multiple streams of income. My main bread and butter is still my private practice because I'm not quite fully at the realm of that yet, but I have all of that in place: books, training courses. I mean, you name it. I don't never lead with 6 figure, 7 figure for me. Okay. Even though I can technically if I really wanted to, I could give you some courses on how to do that. I'm not going to lead with that, because remember this, there's certain things that are going to be okay for when you're in like a coaching business or you're helping other people launch something, that is not really using wisdom when you're in the human services field. I deal with people who are in pain. They come to me because they're in pain. And it was very not wise to start advertising. I'm a therapist who makes X amount of, you see what I'm saying? It looks like you're making almost like a mockery over people's pain and then bragging about it. I've heard people say, I follow my therapist on social media and all that kind of stuff. And she was bragging about how she made 6 figures, and I immediately canceled my appointment, because you see what I'm saying? Because when you're dealing with people's hurts, their pain, emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual, you cannot lead with that. Now, we have to understand the business side of things. We have to understand all the things that you have to do when it comes to owning your own business. And there's a time and a place to talk about that, but that is not the time. This is why you'll never see me on advertisements for my practice talking about X amount of dollars, because it is in poor taste. Okay. And that is for my therapist. It's not for anyone else, not throwing shade at anybody else. That is for people who are specifically doing what I do. You are a licensed clinician. You operate under your license. You own your own private practice, or you have a desire to do that. You have to use wisdom as far as how you show up in these places, particularly when you're dealing with people who have emotional wounds. All right. So I started my private practice. I had an idea, started my private practice, and I did a video a while back on how God gave me my own private practice. So I won't redo that. But for many, many years, I was just really inspired, going all the way back to my undergrad days. I started school in the late 90s. Okay, I'm in my 40s. I know I don't look it, but I am. And so what really inspired me, because I knew eventually the field that the what I had started off with, I was doing what other people wanted me to do. You got to do business, or you got to do engineering, all the kind of stuff that I would never have passed. I had a desire to own my own private practice, but once I found out what I was passionate about, which was helping hurting people, I just put that to the side, because I didn't think that was like a thing. It wasn't until I got to my undergrad. For those who attended Bennett College, but I didn't graduate from there. I went to Bowie State, and then I went to Howard University for my graduate program. And then I was really inspired by my professors. And a lot of them, I never forget, his name was Dr. I can't remember his name. Oh, anyway, I like to give people credit when you drop nuggets that I can glean from, but I can't remember his name. He used to dress in nice suits. If you went to Howard with me, you remember the guy. He said you work for an agency long enough and you do what you're supposed to do to learn, and then you launch out and get your own organization. And so I was really inspired, because I saw Black excellence. Even when I went to Bennett, when I went to Bowie State, when I went to Howard, I saw Black excellence. I saw PhDs, and it opened up my eyes. And then I saw people in the human services field who also owned their own private practices, did other things, did consulting. And I never look at someone and want to be them, but I was inspired, because I was like, man, you can do that. And that put me on my path. But again, check out that video on how God gave me my own business. It's not an easy track. Okay. So for many, many years, I had this desire. For those who know, I lived in Greensboro well over 10 years, but prior to that, I'm from Maryland. I used to live in Cary. I had tried to start my own private practice. I have since learned that if you keep trying to push something, oftentimes God is holding that door closed because it's not time yet. And so I registered my business name and started doing things. And no matter what I did, I just kept hitting the ground floor. I kept hitting brick walls, and I realized maybe it just wasn't time yet. And that's hard. It is hard to be the type of person that you have greatness in them, and you sit in the mediocrity, so to speak. And so many, many years have passed. Since that time, I had started a PhD program. I wasn't able to graduate at that time, and I worked in community mental health. I worked in inpatient hospitals. As y'all know, I have gone back to school and completed my doctorate. So I was always doing other things. I was always studying. I was always keeping myself busy. I had 2 or 3 different things going on. I was writing. That's how I write all these books. Right now, I always have multiple things that I'm going on that are in pursuit of my purpose, that I do in secret places that I naturally love. And so it was not until, but I always had this dream. And so every now and again I would do stuff. I would like post vlogs. I would give a lot of information. For those who don't know, in my private practice right now, I've transitioned to seeing I started as a trauma therapist, and I work mainly in community health and all those things, seeing people who have been abused. But when I started my private practice, which is really, really God, is that all these leaders started showing up, ministerial leaders, bivocational leaders. That means these are people who are in ministry and they run CFOs, CEOs, they run an organization. These are the main types of folks that I see, leaders, any type of leader in their emotional wound. I see them in my private practices, and that is not to brag, but I'm just telling you. So what I didn't realize is that during that time where I felt like God was stalling me, no one ever taught me some of the things I learned in those secret places. I couldn't be trained the way I needed to be trained had I been doing what I'm doing. So I say all that to say, when I started my private practice, even though I studied leadership development, and emotional wounds of leaders, I had a goal. And I know I'm rambling. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm just like, I had a goal of maybe eventually starting my own consulting business where I go into organizations and stuff like that. I didn't realize what I was studying and what I was in training for would help me in when I started my private practice. Okay. So how I transitioned or started my private practice was simple. When it was time. Um, After all those years, feeling like I was delayed, this is in 2017 when I started my private practice. A good friend of mine, shout out to Dr. Johnson, we met at her office, and she was living at Greensboro at the time. And we were just talking. I was helping her I think one of her books she had asked me about. And she's someone I just know like since my days at Howard. So shout out to her. And I wasn't jealous because she had her own office now, and she's her own business owner. She does the most. I wasn't jealous. I'm never jealous of my friends or people that I know who are doing well. I'm just not that person. But as I was leaving, I never forget, I just felt the peace of God come over me. And I felt like, okay, after all these years, it's time. It's time. And I just felt peace about it. At the time, the numbers didn't add up. My bank account didn't add up because you make a decent salary in the human services field, but it ain't enough. Okay. And then I have an outstanding bill that I was paying on that kind of took all my money. So sometimes God waits until you in desperate situations. Not he waits until you have exhausted all your resources so you can only give him credit. So but I felt the peace of God come over. Long story short, I end up finding the perfect office space. I'm no longer there as of right now because, as y'all know, I have since moved to a bigger office space. But I started that in 2017 after waiting many, 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 many years and doors closing. And I had a little office space. This is pre-pandemic, which I'm glad about that because I still see people in the office in telehealth. I was never planning on doing telehealth ever. And God just opened up a door, and this is how it always happens for me. It just happened. I never forget the leasing agent that at my other place. He no longer works at the company, but I called and I was like, listen, I called them, the price is right. And he was like, I'm so sorry, man. But we just booked that last office, and if we and he just told me it was done, but he said he put my name on the waiting list. And I was so disappointed because I just knew, I was just like, I knew it. So I was talking to another coworker of mine. God will send people and they don't even know they're used by God. And I was so disappointed. And I don't know how I got to this conversation with my coworker. Her name was Leslie. Shout out to Leslie. And I don't know how we got to it, but I was talking to her and I was like, yeah, I found the perfect office space and now I just can't, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, Samaria, call them back. What are you talking about? Call them back. And I was like, huh? She's like, call them back. Ask them, is there a waiting list? You never know. Call them back. So, thank you, Jesus. Oh, so I called him back and I was like, listen, I already talked to you, but if there's a waiting list, if you could please just put my name. He said, sure, he was like, you're the only one on the waiting list, right? And he was like, but the guy who's taking that office space, he hasn't called us back. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, please. You gotta know when it's your turn. So I begin to pray. I said, Lord, in the name of Jesus, you're gonna give. I wasn't putting them out or speaking word curses. I was saying, in the name of Jesus, you gonna give him a better opportunity in the name of Jesus. That's my office. And I began to pray. I had another acquaintance of mine, and we walked around the building. And listen, because you don't understand, it's nothing to somebody else if you haven't had to be when you felt like delayed or you kept having doors closed over. It's nothing to you to just go get an office space. But when you have had to struggle for that thing and it didn't come easily and doors kept slamming and you've been waiting years, honey, you're not taking no for that. So when God said this time, he finally called me back and he said the guy has not called. And here, you can, and he let me see it. I was able to get to it. I didn't have the best of credit at that time, but there was nothing really on my credit but student loans. I mean, I'm like that person who has like a million and trillion student loans. But anyway, so I started my private practice. Okay. From there, and it's been a very long journey. It's been a very, very long journey. Um, I thought I would be a year and then I would be off and I would be working for myself in that year. Honey, it did not happen in that year. And so for a lot of time, which is the reason why you may not see me a lot, or I kind of lost a little bit of touch, honestly, because I was working so hard from since 2017. And mind you, I've always been someone who had so many different things going on. I was working full time, but this time I still had my regular job. I worked for the same community mental health agency over 12 years before I left. From 8 to 5 there. I got transferred to a different location that was 55 minutes away. I would not give up my private practice. I would work for my private practice from 5 to 8 in the afternoon. Or when I got to my office, that's not including notes, it's not including contracts, all day Saturday. And then I would go to church Sunday morning. And then Sunday evening, we have evening service at our church. I would never go because that's when I had to catch up, wash my clothes, fix myself together. And I've been grinding it out. Eventually, at some point, and I'll tell you how I'm leading to how I started my private practice, but also what led me to finally make the jump, because it is scary when you don't have support. I don't have anyone else to pay my bills for me. I don't have someone. I have people that can encourage me, tell me to keep going. I mean, if I can call my godmother. I can call somebody. I can call one of my college folks that was like a mentor to me and say, hey, not like a mentor to me, like a business mentor, but that says, oh, congratulations, keep going. But no one can help me pay my bills. No one's going to help me. Do you see what I'm saying? I don't have that level of I had to do it by myself, basically. It's just me and Jesus. So I was like literally working from 8 to 5, my private practice from 5 to 8. No, 8 to 5 in a community mental health agency, which y'all know that's a lot. That's on a whole nother level of stress. Going straight from there to my private practice from 8 to 8, working all day Saturday, still getting to go on church on Sunday. And eventually, as time went on, I kept getting more and more clients. I started learning about contracts. I started learning about policies, and I needed to learn that because there is a backside of owning your own private practice that a lot of people don't know about, or because it is still a business. We don't do what we do purely based on the fact of how much money you're going to make. However, you have to learn the policy, the procedures when you're a healthcare professional. But in any business that you have, getting up in front of people is nothing. That's not leading. That's not starting a business. It's the behind the scenes that cost that really is what matters more than what's in front of people, as I see it. And so I was doing the absolute most. Eventually, I was able to go back to another PhD program. I paid for that all out of pocket. Okay. And I'm leading up to how I was able to start my private practice, but I'm also leading up to why I decided to leave. And I always had a goal of doing this. So, and doing this, but you see, I'm doing the absolute most. I had burned out multiple times, and I could have made that leap of faith, but every single time I thought it was time to take that leap of faith, something would come into my faith that will block it. Okay. And I believe that was God, because there's a time and a place for everything. And what I've learned to do, and I encourage you to don't compare your journey to someone else. There's some people that start their business and boom, in a year they're off. And I wanted that, but it didn't happen for me that way, because there's other things I had to learn that may be different from my colleagues. And it's okay for them. I can celebrate someone else getting there before me, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's not for me. And it doesn't necessarily mean that because I didn't get it when other people else got it, then it wasn't going to happen for me. So don't compare your journey to someone else, because most of the time when God has you waiting a little bit longer than the other person, when you come out the box, you have a lot of depth, you have a lot of weight, you have a lot of foundation to you. You're really good at what you do. You're not riding on the grace of someone else. You're not superficial, all this is no shade, but I always say it like this, we can move a crowd, but you can't exegete a text. It simply means this, like, a lot of what we see now, social media, wherever we go, it's like a hype. But if you look at the depth, it's nothing behind it. It's no depth. There's no depth. There's no weight. There's no height to it. And so sometimes God has to have you waiting longer because you have more depth to you. You are anointed. He wants you to come out, but he wants you to come out strong with some spiritual weight to you. So during that time, even while I was waiting, even after I started my private practice, I was writing books. I was learning so much. When I was able to finally re-register for a PhD program, I had so much research because I started a whole different sphere of influence. I learned a lot about leadership. I learned a lot about leadership development. I learned a lot about how to minister and counsel leaders. I didn't know that when I first started my private practice. So I know I'm all over the place. Okay. But how I started seeing leaders is because I started off as a trauma therapist. But when I started my private practice, all these leaders started showing up. And so I didn't realize all that time, all that time, God was preparing me for this demographic. Okay. So I started doing the most. I've always been strategic. I've always been a planner. I created courses while I had my private practice, still seeing clients, becoming a PhD program. Then I started being hit with all these things in my personal life because people start getting jealous and envious of your success and they don't see the behind the scenes work. I gained a whole lot of weight. I used to only literally be sleep about 4 hours. I mean, I was doing the absolute most, okay? But it never felt like work because it was what I was passionate about. And I still had this community mental health agency that I work for, which is a whole nother ballgame in itself. How I decided that I needed to leave is because I could no longer keep up. I couldn't keep up. It got to the point where I had so many people calling me for my private practice. I had more people calling me to schedule for my private practice than I did the community mental health agency I was working at. And I started not being able to keep up with like phone calls. And I could have hired an administrative assistant, but why hire an admin assistant when I really just needed to quit my job? I was holding on because I was scared. I remember I was talking to a therapist and we were going over the numbers and she was saying, Samaria, like you see more clients in 2 days between my private practice and my day job. You see more clients in 2 days than I see in an entire week. And so when I hit burnout, honey, I hit burnout and I had to make different decisions. I never forget when they brought us back into the office, between Friday and Monday, I got 15 different hits of potential referrals. And I was so emotionally, mentally exhausted. I couldn't respond to them. These are 15. And if anyone knows about private practice, that is actually really, really good. Sometimes it's a little bit too much and I couldn't keep up. I had to turn people away from my private practice because I had this day job that was taking up my time. So I knew that I was just tired. I was tired. I hit burnout. After completing my PhD, I talked about in a book called The Accuser how I started going through so much emotional, mental attack that I couldn't keep up and I hit burnout. And I talked about in a previous session, stress, burnout, and compassion fatigue. And sometimes you could be doing the right thing, but that time in your life is over. When I first started my private practice, I did have a plan. And so, the plan didn't execute the way I wanted to. When it didn't come to fruition the way I wanted to. And so what I started doing is I looked at, how many clients I needed to see. I had to understand contracts and reimbursement rates because this is the backside of things. At minimum, how many clients do I need to see to continue to sustain my lifestyle? I do not want to go from have a good life. I ain't rich, but I have a good life to being broke again. And I had to look at my budget. I had to look at my budget as that if hypothetically something happened, at minimum, how many clients did I need to have? I needed to have a big old chunk of savings. Okay. And so I started making a plan. I made the plan at the beginning when I first started my private practice, but towards the end of my tenure at my community mental health, I learned so much more about contracts, insurance contract, reimbursement rates, how to scale your business, how to up your business, what are your policies, procedures. I had to really sit down and renegotiate what that looked like for me. And I did that. When I first started my private practice, I was looking at different business coaches, and when you're a practitioner, a healthcare provider, you have to look at um, you can look at the business coaches, but you also have to understand how the healthcare profession works. That may be very different. Okay. And so I did like go to like the small business center in Greensboro, and things like that. But I also needed to really kind of filter the information into what I could use and what I couldn't use. One of the ladies that I did look at her name was Makeva Jenkins. So I started my business in April 2017, and unfortunately her life was taken away from us. Her life ended by the hands of her husband somewhere in that year. But prior to that, I watched a video about her, and she was talking about how to launch your business, and that really helped me. So I always had a plan from the beginning. Towards the end of my tenure at my community mental health agency, I ended up um, relooking at what I needed to do, my minimum goals. And so I had a plan. How many minimum clients do I need to see? What's my bread and butter? My bread and butter that pays me now is my private practice. Now I do have multiple streams of income, but I looked at what is my main bread and butter to do my budget. And I looked at my other streams of income as extra. But my main bread, you get to what I'm saying. So I set a plan. And then throughout the years, I kept trying to launch something to come up. I would still look at the new information that I had learned, how to deal with contracts, how to renegotiate contracts, the paperwork that I needed to fill out. I made sure at the beginning that my business was God's business, that it belonged to Him. One thing I've learned, which I'll tell you, is that God wants us to be successful in every area of our lives. I can say and I can tell you, God wants you to be successful. But wouldn't it be better if I told you how? And so there's so many different things that God told me. When another area of my business I need to scale up, I literally heard the Holy Spirit says, go do this. How I moved into my new office, believe it or not, is because at the beginning of the year, God tells me everything I need to accomplish in that year, books I need to write. And He starts telling me September, October. Well, at the beginning of January, God told me I need you to go to this office, pay this amount of money for rent, and do this. So even though I would not recommend making a decision to move into a bigger office that costs more when you're trying to leave your day job, you want to scale down and look at your budget. You don't want to add something else to it, okay? But because I was following God, it wasn't until I moved, which I know I moved probably in August. I moved everything. I signed my lease in August. I'm now here in October. I'm now here. God didn't tell me till a couple of weeks ago. The reason why I told you to do that was because I'm getting ready to increase your influence. And so I couldn't keep up. I was really, really scared. But I did it. I took the leap. And when I took the leap, it was still scary because that thought in the back of your mind says, oh my God, what if this fails? What if I can't do it? I talked to my supervisor and I told him, he was a real cool guy. And I was telling him, I was like, I'm in private practice. He knew it. Everybody knew I had a private. Well, most people did. I knew I had a private practice. And I was like, listen, I can't keep up. And I was like, this has been my dream. He was like, I completely understand. That's another thing. I know I'm all over the place, y'all. I'm gonna have to redo this. But I did have an exit strategy, which is important. But while I had my exit strategy, I left my previous job on good terms. I did not tear up anyone's organization. I did not take clients with me. I built my own practice based upon one, God, and two, my own ingenuity, my own marketing, my own learning. I did not take it. I only had one client from my previous practice, and that was because before I even left, they stopped taking their insurance, and she was not trying to take no for an answer. She ended up calling her insurance, and they told her that I was a network at a different organization. She called me, she's like, Samaria. And I was like, okay. But that's the only client that I had from my previous organization. So I feel like this, and I'm going to talk to you about this I may do this again. I'm going to talk to you about this in another teaching, how your exit strategy from one place to another place is going to be really, really important. Your exit strategy. Okay. But you have to do it in integral. Don't leave one's organization a mess. Don't leave one's church in the offense or a mess, no matter how bad it gets. Don't, you have to leave with integrity because it's not about them. It's about God. Okay. And so I finally submitted my resignation. I still had my plan. You know, they say God, we make plans, God laughs. I had a plan, but the plan was not in fruition fully. Like I had a plan. I had to pay off my entire car, okay, before I took the leap of faith. I didn't pay off my car till a month. My car, big lump sum of money. I paid off my car after I was already a full-time entrepreneur. So those are just things. Other things I do is I had to learn um everything I needed to learn before I needed to learn a lot before I took the leap of faith. So I took a leap of faith, but it was an educated leap of faith. In my personal opinion, I see people saying, how did God do it? And I just took the leap. And it's like, yeah, but you have to use wisdom. You have to use wisdom. So your exit strategy is okay, but you have to also use wisdom. Don't just jump out and without a plan. God is a God of preparation and a plan. God told me a few years ago, everything that I have, everything that is for you, I have for you, but I had to prepare you for it first. I don't understand the people who telling you about something God hasn't prepared you for first. God prepares you in secret places, not in open places. Okay. Um, I sought wise counsel. Like I said, I had another therapist that is still my person that told me you can do it. She's like, Samaria, you're already doing it. I had to be clear or careful about who I sought because we live in a very presumptuous generation. And sometimes people will give you advice based upon their fear. Like I didn't like if I know specifically people now, if I had said, hey, I'm taking this leap of faith and I'm not gonna work at a regular organization anymore. They're like, no, you can't do it. And you've been at this organization X amount of years and you can retire in X amount of years. And are you sure you want to do it? I didn't seek counsel from those people because they're only going to give you advice based upon their limitations. Okay. And plus, sometimes it's just true that people do get jealous and envious of your success. So when the only one person I talked to about it beforehand, and I was telling how I was stressed out, I was burnt out. I had a great relationship with all my superiors, the people that I had to answer to, and I had a great relationship with my clients. I was burnt out, and she was saying, "Samaria, you can do this. You already are doing this. I see X amount of clients. You see more clients in 2 days than I see an entire week. I will go on vacation and start seeing clients on my vacation. Okay. You get to the point where you get forced out. I got to the point where I took a vacation. I would feel like the weight of me not being stressed out anymore. And it hit me as soon as Monday morning came because I had to do a whole 12, 14, 16-hour day. And that's not including notes. It just was all consuming. And so I had to seek wise counsel from people who are in position to give it. God will send those people into your life. I remember when I first started my private practice, I met another lady. She just happened to call me out at random. Turns out we knew mutual people. She graduated from Howard University. I graduated from Howard University at different times. She had been in private practice a good 10 years longer than I had. I just started. And I'll never forget, she said, if you ever need anything, you call me. You call me. God will send the right people in your path that will really help you, that just want to help you for the sake of helping you. And I always say this favor is not, is you don't have to manipulate people to get put on. You understand what I'm saying? I was obedient to God's voice. God told me it's going to be a smooth transition. God told me to move into this bigger office. Since moving, my business has grown exponentially. I have no desire to go back, and I don't have to go back. And financially, I don't even need to go back. Okay. When he said smooth transition, he said smooth transition. Every single week now, I usually so when I was working at the community mental health, like we had goals of how many clients we needed to see every week. Now I know some people say that's whatever. That's what we had to do. So I had that same mindset of how many clients I need to see on a weekly basis. I hit that goal every week, every week, every week. Now I'm still taking new clients, but I'm very close to the point where I'm going to have to take a waiting list because I'm seeing so many clients. And I told myself I'm not going to go back to burnout, stress, and compassion fatigue. So I had to stay consistent, but I also had to do what God told me to do. Like I said, it wasn't like after I submitted my resignation and I was so freaking out, like, oh my God, what did I just do? And then my supervisor reassured me, hey, you can always come back. But God said, Samaria, close all doors. And he said, it's going to be a smooth transition. And I say it has been a smooth transition. I have missed absolutely nothing. I don't talk money because of what I just said at the beginning, but my lifestyle is the same. I'm scaling up. You understand what I'm saying? I've been able to, I'm still in a good place and I'm doing very, very well. I just put it that way. Just know I'm doing well. And God has gave me some great promises for my future. But it would not have happened. Some things, and I said it because I know that there's a lot of people who are listening to this and maybe in fear. And you saying this job is my solid. This is what I'm familiar with. But I got this passion, I got this dream. I'm not going to be satisfied. And you have a business that's starting to scale up. Sometimes God won't even allow you to walk in another level of success until you let go. And that's not for everybody. Some people, because I see people trying to push things and it's not their time yet, too. That's a whole other conversation. But there's some time where you hit the glass ceiling here, and I'm not going to be able to move forward until I let it go. I always pay my tithes. I always pay my offering. I'm a tither. And I cannot expect God to elevate me in my business if I don't pay my tithes. And I give my offerings, okay? I do that consistently. Never miss it. I was raised on tithes. And now I'm here as a generous curse breaker, as someone who pays their tithes. I always budget. Like I said, I'm looking at my notes now. I did not have to take a pay cut or a payout. I had to look at my bills and look at and pay down what I could. Like I said, once I took the leap of faith, I still paid my car completely off. I don't have a car payment. My two biggest expenses right now are my office rent and then the rent for my obviously my home. Okay. And I had to watch my spending and I had to not let go of fear. And I said, God has blessed me. He continues to bless me. Okay. I did take a leap of faith, but I took an educated leap. Okay. I have to also, I've learned because now I'm operating in a very small organization. I don't have the same backing that I had at my community mental health when there was other staff. There's a crisis unit. There's multiple different facets that I can refer a client to. I say all that to say, I had to create systems of how I run my business that's specific for me. I had to set clear boundaries. I do not talk to clients. Do not have 24 hours access to me. I have to be strict about what my intake process is because I have other clients that I have to see. And I also have to learn. I learned and I still continue to learn is that every client is not my client and every person is not my person. So just because you see me at the end, we'll have a conversation about what this looks like. It doesn't happen very often, but I have clients every now and again who need what we call a HLOC, a higher level of care. Well, I'm not going to see this client just because I can take your insurance. I may have to say, hey, this is what you need. And I do what we call a warm transfer. And I find them what they need. So I had to learn how my business works, what's going to be most effective for me and what my policies or my procedures are. And I heard this from another therapist. Any business owner, your clients do not dictate to you how you run your business. Okay, you know what works. I had someone years ago say, I don't like the paperwork. Well, the paperwork is consistent with every healthcare provider in the state of North Carolina. The paperwork, the form maybe looks slightly different, but the information is going to be the same when you go to the dentist, when you go to your primary care physician, when you go to another therapist. So I'm not going to be so desperate for a client and you don't like my paperwork. I got to go into my system, recreate a whole different form so you can feel comfortable. I don't do that. I don't accommodate my clients like that. This is my business. If you don't like the way I run my business, then you're more than welcome to find a different therapist that meets your needs. I don't say it at a nice, nasty, but professional way. Say, I'm so sorry that we don't meet your needs at this organization. I'll be glad to assist you in finding a different therapist. So I've learned to be really kind of very strict about that. I have very strict policies because again, when you're meeting with clients, clinicians, they don't know that you have multiple clients or you have, or a full caseload or a full day. And so, and you have to give them your undivided attention. So sometimes you got to be real rigid about this is what this is. If you don't show up within your, in an intake session and you show up 15 minutes late, I'm not going to see you. I put that in my policies and procedures. If you don't fill your intake packet 24 hours prior to your appointment, I'm still not going to see you, but I would give you warning for that. Okay, and the reason why that is because the clients don't know, because when they come into this office, you don't see a whole group of people out in the lobby and 10 people. You see you, and I give you your undivided attention. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, when I finish with this session, I got to see someone else. You see what I'm saying? So I say all that to say, your clients don't run your business. You run your business. Okay, it caters to them in a sense of like, am I qualified to meet what you need? and I'm a great therapist, but you don't tell me how to run my business. You understand what I'm saying? So I had to learn that. I joined Facebook groups by other practitioners. Okay. I joined Facebook groups by other practitioners, and I was able to get their testimonies as well. I remember, I read a testimony of one person. She had gotten let go of her job, and she said that she had 3 kids that were going off to college. She just started private practice. She said in a year, she was doing the most. Okay, still successful. And she scaled up of how much her successful her business is. But that was very, very scary. And most of the clinicians said the same thing. It was so scary, but I did it. Okay. So you do want to take the leap of faith, but it has to be an educated leap, have X amount of money saved up, budget, scale down, and pay off any and everything you got to pay off before you take that leap of faith. Okay. And then do what you have to do. Attend conferences, read books, go on your Facebook groups of other people who do what you do. So I would encourage someone else. It may not happen when you want it, but it will happen. Don't compare your journey to others. God will send you help. Okay, don't try to force it. When you are forced or trying to force something to be that is not, we can tell it. And it's not good. Okay, now God has given me multiple streams of income, and my goal for the next year is to continue to scale up on that end because I have it. I have books and workbooks and training courses and a t-shirt line, and I have a podcast. So my goal is to scale up that, but I couldn't compare my journey because my other colleagues in the field, they got more successful that way first, and then that wasn't my journey, and that is okay. No shade. And so now I don't have a huge social media presence. I got all this other stuff going on, but I have a really thriving practice. So don't compare your journey to somebody else. Just keep being consistent. And so, and at times, like I said, you have to take that leap. When I first started my private practice, I told this story many moons ago that I really didn't have the money that I needed. I wouldn't recommend you doing it to even sign a lease in my first office space. I didn't have the money. I started selling so many books that every month the exact amount, and the rent was super cheap, y'all, but when you ain't got it, that's all. It feel like it's expensive. So that's neither here nor there. Every week, every month, excuse me, I was selling so many books that I was able to use that money to pay my office space. So that's why I said I took a leap of faith. It's like God will always provide a way when it's his time. And again, I'll talk to you at a later time about how do you have multiple streams of income, because I do. But my main bread and butter, when I look at all my budget, and when I look at all where my sources are coming from, my main bread and butter right now is my private practice. Will that change? Absolutely, because I got a word from God. So I know I'm kind of all over the place. Let me make sure I told you everything I need to tell you. I do have a training course called From Practitioner to Business Owner. And I will recommend that. I'll put that in the link below. It is for cost. There's one that says The Makings of a Great Therapist. That just gives you really inspirational things. So how do you become a great therapist? It does not give you the backside of how you start your own private practice. The other one is for free. The one that's called The Makings of a Great Therapist is for free. It's just a YouTube video. The one that says From Practitioner to Business Owner, that is for cost. And it's going to give you the step-by-step journey of how you start your own private practice. How do you register? How do you negotiate contracts? How do you register your business name? What type of licensure you need to have? The only thing it doesn't tell you a lot about is taxes, because that's not my vein. Like, you got to pay somebody else for that. But keeping good records and how you get all these things, it'll go from step by step by step. And should you complete that course, which you should be able to follow those steps and launch your own private practice. Okay. What else? Okay. Anyway, at the end of the day, like I said at the beginning, my mission is to serve others. And I just wanted to do that to a greater degree. But I can't serve others at the detriment of myself. And that simply means it's one of the greatest things I love about private practice is to be able to own my own time. I really do. I don't work, I only work in my private practice 4 days out of the week. Okay, I'm in there now because this is my work day, but I had to scale. I don't take my first client before 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm able to, which I love, and I want you to see yourself this way. I'm able to take a vacation. I'm able to go to the gym. For those who know, I gained a ton of weight. I mean, I was always plus size, but I lost all this weight and was looking snatched and whatnot. I started gaining all my weight back. What time I started gaining all my weight back because I was just tired and I was just going. I just stopped, something to eat, go. But now I'm able to lose my weight. I've lost weight, but I need to lose some more. I'm in the process of doing it. I'm able to go to the gym. I'm able to enjoy my life. I'm still in some ways recovering from that burnout phase, but I'm a lot emotionally, mentally, and spiritually in a better place because I don't have to worry as much. I don't have two jobs. I can technically work part-time and make the same amount or more money than I did working all those jobs. Okay. I had to take a leap of faith. And my only goal for today is to encourage you that you can do the same. Okay. I know it's kind of all over the place, but you can do the same. Don't give up. Start small. And you may be the type of person that when you start your private practice in a year, it is boom. But guess what? For a lot of us, it don't happen that way. And that is okay. Don't look at these gurus on YouTube and compare yourself because I be seeing these YouTubers, and I said before, or you see them just going shopping or what I mean, just doing the absolute most. I'm thinking you own your business, all you do is shop because you do have a little lifestyle. You can, buy your little purse and you can do a little more. Okay. You just can, but that is not the gist of being a business owner, is how much money you can spend. Okay, it's who you can serve, and it is about being your own boss, serving your community in a better way, but also being able to live. And God said, I come that you may have life and life more abundantly. And I'm so glad that I can walk around my neighborhood. I can go to my office. I can go to the gym. I can take a vacation. I can live. I can breathe. And I can do what I love without feeling the level of pressure and pain and stress that I was under. Okay. I'll talk to you a little more about that. All right, I'm Dr. Samaria Colbert. If you're watching this via YouTube, that course is going to be under um the link. I also have books. One is gonna call about being business. I'll post a link about that as well. If you're watching this via Facebook or Instagram or my podcast, just go to my website at drsamaria.com and click the link that says training, and you will pull up the one that says from practitioner to business owner. I also have other training courses for clinicians at www.trainingchristianleaders.com. And then I also have my private practice course. We are accepting new consumers. We almost about to hit that waiting list. So get in while you can. You must be an NC resident, okay? At www.kingdomcreativecounseling.com. And God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. We'll be back in the day and another time, another banger. Bye, y'all. Bye.